Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our last and final session of Cooking Matters. Today, we have a special guest, Hunter Smith. He is a Colorado native, born in Colorado Springs. He has worked in many positions within the culinary industry, from baking to plating, dishwashing, and more. He received training from master chefs and kitchen managers while working at places such as the Garden of the Gods Catering, otherwise known as Till Kitchen, and Rocky Mountain Kitchen or King Chef Diner. He currently works at Bread and Butter Neighborhood Market in downtown Colorado Springs. It is a locally owned grocery store that provides high quality food, wine, and spirits for the community. His passions include writing, helping people, preparing meals for others to enjoy. He says that cooking is fun and easy and something the whole family can enjoy. And so now he's going to cook for us during this whole session and show us how. Thank you very much, Hunter.
Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Hunter, do you want to say anything else, or you good?
No, I think I'm good. It's nice to meet everybody. It's good to see all your faces. Hopefully you can learn something today.
Awesome. Okay, so Hunter is going to be cooking with us a little bit later. We're going to do a shorter, you guys did a lot of listening with us in the last two sessions, so we're going to do a little bit shorter talk today. Only one challenge activity. Are you guys looking at my PowerPoint, Aisha, or the?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, all right. So today's class is a world of spices. And like I said, we're gonna have only one breakout session, but we're gonna try to get through as many recipes as we can today as well. Hunter's gonna demo shepherd's pie and a stir fry. And I'm gonna do a quick pickle, which is Japanese style, and a chai tea, which is an Indian dish. So yes, so with the spices, we're going to discuss why it's important to learn about herbs and spices, ways to inexpensively try out new spices. We'll do an activity challenge and some cooking demos. So we'll probably start with one of the cooking demos and then go into the activity challenge. But first we'll go through our quick conversation. So I'm going to pull the chat up so I can see your answers. If you would like to unmute, you may, but if you want to just throw these in the chat, you're welcome to. Yes, Melanie, a real chef. It's so cool. Okay, so why herbs and spices? Why is it so important to learn about herbs and spices? What do you guys think? Flavor, variety. Yes. Why don't we just add butter and salt to everything, right? Everybody loves like butter popcorn. Too much fat. Yeah, flavor without all the bad stuff, exactly. Not as healthy. Okay. So yes, okay, the amount of the saturated fat in the butter, okay, this can lead to clogged arteries, okay? It can lead to, well, there's the salt. The salt can contribute to high blood pressure, heart failure, heart attack, kidney problems, fluid retention, stroke, and a new one they're learning is osteoporosis. So your body will actually steal those minerals from your bones to balance out your blood if it's too thick with the salt. So too much salt can lead to osteoporosis as well. Okay. Butter, okay, that high saturated fat can lead to obesity, heart disease, and dementia. Dementia is a new one that they're relating to butter intake as well. Okay. Yeah, not as healthy. So when we think about, I've just pulled this picture off the internet. Okay, so this is, you know, it's saying that there's all these great health benefits to herbs and spices. Okay, but this is kind of this this little picture that I pulled up. It didn't really have any research backed behind it. So there was nothing on there that said, Like it says, rosemary fights obesity, liver diseases, gastritis, cholesteremia, bronchic asthma, and edemas. Okay, so does that mean we can throw our inhaler in the trash and just start taking rosemary? Probably not, right? So we want to consider that there are health benefits to herbs and spices, but they're subtle, okay? A lot of the research, there's research on some more than others. So I pulled some off of healthline.com, okay? And I just want you guys to critically think for a second, okay? So this picture had no references in it, okay? From healthline.com, okay, when it talks about turmeric, it's saying turmeric has been used as a medicine for centuries to treat wounds, infections, cold, and liver disease, okay? This reference in parentheses and trusted source on Healthline, when you hover over it, it tells you what that trusted source is, okay? But up here, you see that there is no scientific backing of this information. This is just kind of what people generally think and know. And it says it's been used for centuries. So this is old wisdom, okay? When we get down and you look down here about the curcumin, which is the part of turmeric that they say is so good for you, this has trusted research back behind it, okay? So what is in turmeric can help fight diabetes, heart disease, bowel disease, cancer, all kinds of other things. Okay, so there are health benefits to all kinds of herbs and spices. Okay, that's not as strong. It's not a medicine that we can only treat ourselves with that one thing. But if we're eating these things all the time, it's just going to generally keep us healthier overall. Okay, there's some about ginger up here as well. And Melanie saying also good for stomach problems. Yes, the turmeric is really, really good for us. And really, all the herbs and spices have some kind of benefit for us. So the big why is exactly what you guys said. We're reducing the less desirable nutrients like sodium, fat, and sugar. And then we're increasing the good compounds that are in these spices that there's so much research to be done on. So these phytonutrients, the polyphenols, antioxidants, there's all these really good things in these colorful herbs and spices that can really help us, okay? Just if you go onto Google and you're looking for a solution for a medical problem, just please look for research backed, okay? Things that are referenced. These are all from NIH, so the National Institute of Health, okay? And yeah, just make sure that it's research backed and that it's not your only method that you're using, okay? You always talk to your doctor if you want to get off a medicine or anything like that. But intake herbs and spices are so good for you for so many reasons. Okay, so a little bit about trying them out for the first time. Okay, so if you want to try a new spice, we talked about this a little bit once before. Do we want to go to the store and buy $100 worth of new spices all at once? Okay. So just trying a few at a time, getting in new ones one at a time, exactly. Starting with some of the ones you have and trying them in new ways is going to save us a lot of money, okay? So I have a couple of tips up here for the spices, okay? The spices are the ones that are more like roots, like cinnamon. I have cinnamon here, the cinnamon bark. The ginger root is more of like a spice, and then for dried herbs too. So we couldn't just stick a piece of cinnamon in our, like sprinkle it on our food. We would want to cook that down a little bit. So my suggestion for if you want to try that spice and cook it down would be to saute it in a little bit of olive oil, like maybe half olive oil and half butter, and cook it down a little bit so that that flavor can absorb into the oil. And it won't be as bitter because sometimes fresh spices have a little bit of bitterness to them. Okay. And so saute it and then put it on something bland like rice or potatoes just to get to know that flavor. Okay. I always say start subtle and add more as desired, okay? But with some spices like cumin has a very strong flavor if it's not cooked. So you don't want to cook that cumin in the oil and butter for a little while and let all that flavor absorb nicely into that butter and then taste it and decide, no, I want more, and add more cumin right on top of your rice. It won't taste as good. So with the spices, we want to saute them a little bit or cook them in with the food that you're already making. Okay, with the herbs, so the leafy greens, that you can try it cooked or not. So a lot of things like cilantro, arugula, basil, those kinds of ones you don't have to cook down. So you can try throwing it in a salad if you want to learn the flavor. So maybe not a salad with a big dressing, but like a basic romaine salad. Chop up some basil and throw it in that salad and try it out and get to know that flavor of the basil. Okay. And of course, because we are with Cooking Matters, doing it on a budget. So a couple tips for trying out new herbs on a budget. Generally, dried herbs are going to be a lot cheaper, right? Kelly's got that grow them your own, grow them in your garden. A lot of times if you get the herbs fresh and you can put them in water or wrap the ends of the herbs in a little bit of plastic wrap and like a wet paper towel to keep them fresh as well. Okay, but if you guys, in the produce section where there's those little plastic containers of fresh herbs, sometimes you'll find those on clearance and they'll only be 50 cents. So I always check that little section of the produce section to see what's there in case there's something I want to try. The farmer's market. A lot of things are more expensive at the farmer's market, but herbs is not one of them. They will just pick a whole bunch of herbs that they have growing and put them up there and they'll be about $1 for a bunch of fresh herbs. There's some at Dollar Tree, not as many. There's some dollar dried herbs at Walmart. So I always check the big bins. They're usually not in the spice aisle, but in the big bins out there. And then for one that you're really unsure about, maybe you don't want to even take up the room in your pantry. You want to try it first at Sprouts and maybe at Whole Foods, I'm not sure, but I know at Mountain Mama's, the health food store, they have these little sections where you can go and they have all big jars of the spices. So you go and you get a little bag and you write what spice it is on there, write the little code on it, and you can take even a tablespoon. So if you want to try something that is very unfamiliar to you, just go take a couple tablespoons and they charge you by the ounce for those. And it's very inexpensive. So you can try something new for 50 cents, 75 cents, maybe even 30 cents. I'm going to look in the chat real fast. So Raquel says herbs are super easy to grow and they come back every year. That is very true. Colorado, this dry soil, this very loose soil, sandy, herbs are one of the easiest things to grow here. Not everything, but Carissa says Sage Mountain Herbs has a big variety, reasonably priced. Okay, basil grows easily. Sometimes you can find those little kitchen little herb things, which are fun, but I generally find you have to replant them in bigger pots so that they can grow bigger, so you have more of them. Usually they only grow real small if they're in those tiny herb containers. Dollar store. Carissa, yeah, so go to Sage Mountain, try a ½ ounce before you buy. Okay, all good advice. Okay. Okay, so this is our challenge for today, but I think what we're gonna do is Melanie says you can even pick out wild herbs around. Yeah, so you can forage herbs too if you know what you're doing. In Arizona, we could find rosemary grew all over the streets. People decorated their yards with rosemary and I would just go snip a little bit and use it. Okay, so we're gonna take a break from our PowerPoint. We're gonna let Hunter start introducing his first recipe. And then at some point when we need to take a break from the kitchen, we will go back and do our substitution challenge here for the spices. Okay. I'm gonna take this down. I'm gonna make Hunter
Right.
big.
Can we hear me?
You guys can hear him. Does he look big to everybody?
Am I good? All right, so our first recipe today is gonna be shepherd's pie. What I like to do when I'm starting shepherd's pie is we gotta do potatoes first. These potatoes have just been skinned right before you guys all joined, and what we're gonna do now is break them down and start boiling them. So if we're gonna break them down, should we do them smaller or kind of larger? For the sake of time, we're gonna try to do them a little bit smaller. We're gonna start.
Sarah said small. Sarah said small.
Yep, that's totally right. So we're gonna start by grabbing the potato like that. Take the knife, put it in between my hands, and go straight down. So now we have two halves. We're gonna do that with both the potatoes because we may as well, since we're already starting with the other ones, right? We're gonna go ahead and do that again, so we'll get quarters. Okay. Now this is when the size is really gonna start to take shape. We're gonna do about 1/4 inches, about like that. Just like that guy. And those guys will cook real quick for us while we're waiting. And then while we're waiting for that to cook, we're gonna go ahead and start prepping our other veggies. I've got a pot of water just right behind me here. We can start that at high heat. About halfway through, we'll kind of reduce the heat so that they can just simmer. We don't want the water to boil over and make a whole mess of the kitchen. You only do that a couple times before you realize you need to be cleaner.
Thank you. It's super heavy, and the fact that you could pick that up, you're strong. You're good, ma.
All right. So with shepherd's pie, we need meat. Today we're going to be using turkey because turkey is a very good protein with really low fat content and calorie, and it's also very affordable. Usually we would use something like beef or lamb. Typically, if we use beef, it's called potted pie. But today we're going to be using turkey, so we can probably call it, I don't know. Does anybody have any ideas what we could call this with turkey?
I think it's still cottage pie. I think shepherd's pie is with lamb, like actually.
Yeah. Well, did I not say lamb?
Oh, no, you did say lamb, but it's interesting in England, lamb, like how here turkey is a budget protein item. In England, lamb is actually considered a budget protein item as well, where here it's not.
Is that right? Oh, I did not know that. Okay, so we're going to add some oil to our pan and get that really hot because we're going to saute these. We're going to put them really, really high heat, get some nice color on them because that's where a lot of the flavor comes from. As far as like just pure flavor. About 2 tablespoons in the pan, let that come up to temperature. It'll kind of shimmer when it's ready. And while we're waiting for that to come up to temp, we can go ahead and break down our onion. So same deal, we're gonna cut it straight in half with our fingers like that. Get both halves. I like to remove the tops. So that I can easily peel that skin all the way back. No one wants to eat that. Okay.
And Hunter, can you talk a little bit about the basic idea of a shepherd's pie? Because there's a few people who haven't heard of it. A few people love it.
Basic idea? Oh, so if I could relate it to anything, it's kind of like a chicken pot pie or something of that nature. It's just a real hearty, warm meal to have with the family. It's real easy to make. I don't know the origins of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's an English dish,
But,
an English Irish traditional dish, yeah.
English Irish, all right. And I assume that it has something to do with making the most out of what you got in your pantry.
Mm-hmm.
So right here, we've got these onions. You may have seen a technique before where they cut it right in the middle first, like that. And then they go and do a rainbow cut, kind of a deal around the onion. I like to do it the reverse way. So I will cut it into rings first. And we're gonna do about a medium dice, which is about that big, about the same as what we will do with the other ones here. Just cut them in little rings there. I didn't do that with the other one. All right. Second step here, after they've been put in rings, we're going to keep them together and go do the rainbow cut. So we're just going to go around it, kind of following the natural lines of the onion. Okay, and there you have some diced onion. Everyone see this all right?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So these onions are going to go in the pan first because they have a lot of moisture in them and they need to be cooked before I throw that turkey in there because that's going to cook a lot quicker. Right. And I like to season at every step. So I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper to those onions. And then the rest of the seasonings will come at a different time. I'm throwing in about, hey Jesse, about a teaspoon of each. All right, we're gonna just let those guys come up to temperature and get a little bit of color on them, but not too much. We're not trying to fry them. We're just trying to break down their structure a little bit so they're not so hard to bite on. Now I'm going to take just a clove of garlic, maybe two. One trick that I have for cleaning off the skins of the garlic is you can squish them real good. You're not going to hurt them. You're going to mince them here in a minute. So if you squish them real good, that paper will come right off. And we're going to go ahead and mince these guys by placing them underneath the knife like that. Take the palm of your hand right here and make sure your fingers are flat. You're just gonna smack it real good. Then we'll squish the garlic to a point where you can just very lightly chop it up. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're gonna add that with the onions. All right.
And I might have missed it, Hunter, did you add other spices other than the garlic and onions?
I added a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper,
Okay,
about a 1/4 teaspoon each.
okay.
And that's it so far. So we're just gonna let that cook. I'm out of room on this pan, so we're gonna go ahead and throw the turkey in a separate one. But typically I would like to keep things in the same pan to keep all the flavor together, because you lose a lot of flavor if you're just mixing and matching a whole lot, because it sticks to the pan. And do be careful when you're handling raw meat. I am gonna go wash my hands right over there right after we're done with this. It's very important because you can get pretty sick if you aren't careful with it.
And Renee, yeah, I think he's gonna put in more spices later. I think Renee's asking why you didn't just put all the spices in at once.
Okay, so that's a very good question. I like to season at every step, and usually that consists of salt and pepper and garlic. The other seasonings will come later. They do have a tendency to burn if they're added too soon. So I just like to add this for extra flavor. And you can forego the salt and whatnot and add it later with the rest of the seasonings if you would like.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Oh yeah, she said, yup.
All right, well, if you'd excuse me, I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick and I'll be right back.
Jess, while he's washing his hands, do you want to mention about volunteering at Karen Share?
Yeah, most definitely. So Karen Share, Aisha was telling me that you guys will have volunteer, like 10-hour requirements to do volunteer community service work. So just so you guys all know, Karen Share is a fun place to volunteer. We have all different kinds of shifts, and you can sign up for volunteer shifts on our website. Or if next fall, if you guys want to volunteer as a group, we can arrange that as a whole group. So you will see, if you go to our website, it will say get involved. Okay, and once you go to get involved, you can look at, there are shifts here at the food bank. We're on Preamble and Constitution, where we just pack up boxes of food for our neighbors in need, and we just go through an assembly line and pack them all up. We play music, it's a lot of fun. We also have volunteer shifts at our pantries. So pantries where you can directly go be involved with neighbors in need and get them food right then and there and get to meet people in the community that way. And of course, with Cooking Matters, we always need chefs and dishwashers. So even home chefs too. So there's a lot of volunteer opportunities here. You can just look up on our website if you're interested, or you can call me if you want more information too. Okay. I see Hunter is cooking away.
Jesse, someone did ask about which potatoes to buy.
Okay, so
I was interested.
yeah, so this recipe only called for like 2 large potatoes or 4 medium potatoes. So the most inexpensive potato is of course that russet potato. But Hunter and I were talking and I was looking for these at the store. They just didn't have them loose. They only had them in a big bag. Are those Yukon Gold potatoes. Okay, and I'll tell you why I like the Yukon Golds. And then I will tell you, I'll let Hunter tell you why he likes them. So as a nutritionist, I like the Yukon Gold because they're high in vitamin C and they have other nutrients that a regular potato doesn't have. And you can kind of see that with the yellow color in them. It's going to have vitamin A and vitamin C in it. And also slightly lower glycemic, not very much. And yes, you can make a lentil shepherd's pie, Carissa. Hunter, you told me the reason why you like the Yukon Golds as a chef. What was that?
I'm sorry, could you ask that one more time, please?
Oh, you told me a reason why you like the Yukon Gold potatoes as a chef.
Why I like potatoes?
The gold potatoes, the Yukon.
Oh, the Yukons, yeah. So I like Yukon potatoes because they've got a really nice flavor and texture. You don't necessarily have to peel them because their skin is very, very thin, and it's actually quite nice. They make really good potatoes, even better French fries. I would highly recommend them. But they aren't so good for baking.
You mentioned they're really easy to wash, like those russet potatoes. It's hard to get in those little eyes of the potatoes and wash them. I like to keep the skin on for the nutrition reasons, but those Yukon ones are so much easier to clean when you want to leave the skin on. And Kelly, it's good to know that you like the virtual format. So we have been going back and forth. We would like to do some in-person cooking next year, but I think we will keep this as an option as well. But definitely let Deborah know that. Okay. Are you ready for another step, or do you want me to switch over to my quick pickle, Hunter?
So I can go ahead and show the veggies real quick.
Awesome.
So what we have here for this cottage pie is some celery, some carrots.
Oh, hold up, Hunter. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We had the frozen peas and carrots for the shepherd's pie and the celery and carrots for the stir fry.
Okay.
But you still show how to cut them, but
Right,
just so you don't put them in there, we need them for the stir fry.
I'll do that. So this is for the stir fry. Typically, I would wash these celeries first. Celery does have, just because of how they're grown, they do tend to get a lot of dirt in the crevices there. What we're gonna do here is we're just going to dice these guys up real good. And all you need to do for that is take your knife. Wrong one, that was the turkey knife. Always be aware of that. We're gonna cut it right down the center here. And now you have your 2 sticks. That's all you need. And there are ways to get this a little bit more precise, but for this recipe, it's not necessary. We're just gonna try and get them as close, as even as possible. We're gonna take them to about that thickness. And there's diced celery. Super easy. And should I continue with the other veggies, or?
Yeah, if you like, yeah.
Right.
So those ones
Yeah,
are
of course.
for the stir fry.
Set these to the side. Hey Jess, are there any bowls in here?
Yeah, I'll come back over there and get you some.
I think I found some. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so next we'll do the carrots. We will be skinning them. One of the quickest ways I've found to do it is to put the tip on the cutting board, hold it at the bottom here, take your thing and just have at it. Do a little bit of cleanup there, but other than that, it's that simple. All righty. So carrots are a little tricky. As you can see, it's not one size, not one thickness all the way through. So if the carrot is too big, I'll often cut it right in the center here, so that it can get this side and this side roughly close. With these guys, I'll do just that, because we only need them to be about that long. I'm gonna go ahead and cut those guys in half. Hot dog style. So we're left with one of these guys here, which is one carrot together, right? Then we're gonna go through and now make our little sticks. That we get that shape there. A good way to think about it is roughly the size of a matchstick. It's called a julienne in French. And those are our carrots.
Are you doing the matchstick shape for the stir fry or for the pie?
For the stir fry.
Stir fry, okay.
For the pie, what I will do, thanks for reminding me. For the pie, I would do kind of a cube. To do it kind of a simple way is once you get to this little half part, you can go ahead and cut it again in half so it's in a quarter. And then you just go ahead and cut those guys into squares. So you're left with one of these guys.
Nice.
Yeah, no problem.
How's your turkey back there?
Bubbling, looking pretty good. No color on it just yet. The onions are about done, so we can go ahead and combine those here in a moment. And when you're cutting, it is a good practice to always cut forward. I like to keep the tip of the blade on the cutting board, so it acts as kind of a scissor action there. It takes a lot of strain off of your wrist and allows you to cut for longer, and it gives you a little bit more control. All right. I think that there's enough of that. Next, I have some broccoli. And again, this is going in the stir fry. If you look at broccoli, you can see that we got a bunch of little florets on it. That's what these are called. That's a floret right there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna follow them just so we can get the florets. And since we're going to be using smaller veggies, we're also going to cut these guys in half to get them a little smaller, just to keep things closer to the same size.
Hunter, Aisha's asking what kind of knife is that? So this
Oh,
one,
this is a typical chef knife. It's 8 inches about. Oh, my bad, 6 inches. I got it from Mercer. It's a very, very handy little knife. I like it a lot. And this is the same brand. This is not a typical chef knife. It is more of a, they use these in Eastern areas more, typically Japan, as far as I know. The name of it, I'm not sure, but these are usually very good for veggies. And these guys are very good for proteins.
Does the little dips on the side of the blade keep the veggies? Because I know a lot of times when I use a chef's knife for veggies, the veggies like stick to the blade.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
wipe them
So
off.
that's what those are for. They prevent the like kind of vacuum suction onto the flat of the blade.
Oh my gosh, I might need a second knife in my kitchen.
Yeah, they're handy. I like them a whole lot.
And if you guys are looking for knives, if we do our 6-week course, you get a knife. But I also found inexpensive, really nice knives at the Asian market.
All right. We've got 2 more veggies for you. Got the bell pepper. Now these are really fun to cut. What I like to do for these guys is cut the top off, cut the bottom off, and then cut it right in half. Just like that. And we can save these parts here. That is edible right there. I'll show you how to cut that one up too. One thing that's easy about these is you can just take your hand, pop that right out. You're still gonna have some white bits right there, but we'll take care of that with the blade. This just makes it easier. Okay. So we're gonna flatten those guys out so that we have a good surface. Again, you're not gonna hurt it. And we're just gonna take it, cut those little bits right off. Now you can keep those white parts on, but some people don't like the flavor of it. So I like to take them off. And then now we have these 2 peppers stacked up on top of each other, which makes it really easy to handle. We're going to cut them inside first, because this waxy outside, it's really easy for the blade to just skate right off. And you could hurt yourself if you're not careful. So we're gonna go ahead, cut them into little sticks. These guys are gonna be about medium dice. And then once those are in sticks, we're just gonna cut them into cubes. Really easy. And there you have your peppers. This guy right here, we can just cut it as normal. We don't have to do anything tricky.
I would always eat that end piece.
What's that?
Because I would always eat the end piece, the little leftover piece, or give it to my kids because
Oh, yeah.
peppers are a good one to eat raw with all the vitamin C in there. They have so many vitamins raw. So whenever I cook them, I eat the little scraps right along with them.
Goes really well with hummus.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then we have green onions. Now these guys are easy. Oh, my bad. We have a jalapeno pepper, and then the green onions. So this guy's going to be kind of the same deal. Cut the tops off. Cut it straight in half here. We can even take our finger. Now be careful with jalapenos. Don't touch your face or mouth after you do this. It does help to wear gloves because they will burn you. It's not fun. But we can use our fingers to just peel them. You can have your kids do it if they if you trust them with that.
I don't let the kids do the jalapenos because they'll start complaining.
Another way to do that without using your hands and getting too dirty, we can cut it into a half again. One moment, just gotta check the turkey. And I'm just using a whisk for that because it helps break up the meat pretty easily. So once we have it in a quarter here, this little white part is actually really easy to get into. You can just pop it right off. One quick little cut like that. All right. So now that we have the jalapenos like this, we're going to cut them very small because we don't want big chunks of jalapeno, unless you do. If you like big chunks of jalapeno, more power to you. But for this recipe that I'm doing, we're going to do about like that. All right. And last but not least, we have the green onions or scallions.
Are those are for the pie or for the stir fry?
So these are going to be for the stir fry. Although if you would like to garnish your pie with some scallions, if you like onion, then that is completely acceptable. I typically would garnish cottage pie with some parsley.
I didn't get you any parsley, Hunter, because it was like a garnish.
What's that?
I didn't get any parsley just because you said you would use it for a garnish. And so unless I was serving it to you guys and you guys were all in person, I would give you a garnish. But since we're all online and you can't taste it anyway, I didn't get any parsley for the garnish.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about presentation right now. So we got some green onions here. One way, you can do it any way you'd like. It's really just going to be straight on like that. I like to kind of do it on an angle so that we get some really cool looking cross section here. Get a little bit of a bigger onion that way. Whereas if we were to do it just flat on, it's not quite as long. It's just kind of, it doesn't look as nice in my opinion. We're just going to go ahead and keep them bunched up together. It's good to keep that claw just like that. Make sure those knuckles are up against that blade. You can just go to work. All the control.
Can you guys get a bonus? If anyone can put it in the chat, what do we do with those little roots when we're done from the last class? Do you remember?
These little guys there.
There you guys go. Yep. Put them in a little tiny glass of water and grow them back. Use them again.
All right, keep on, we'll hold on to those guys. All right, and those are all of our veggies that we're going to be working with today. It does help if you prep these beforehand. That way you can just throw them all together when you eat them. All right, now let's check on our cottage pie real quick. All right, so our turkey's just about done. So we can start going ahead and cooking all of our other veggies with our onions here. We're gonna try and keep it all in that pot if we can, because if you look at the bottom here, we got all sorts of bits that we can actually take off of the pan, and it's just, we call them the yum yum bits because it's just toasty, delicious stuff. And we're gonna bring that out after we deglaze, which will come in a minute. And today we're just using some frozen peas and carrots. I think about one bag will be okay.
Okay. Yeah, so Raquel, we set them on the counter for a little bit to defrost, so they're not real frozen. And because his pan is real hot, or do you want to speak to this?
About the frozen stuff?
Yeah, if you were adding like frozen peas and carrots like that were super frozen, would you rinse them off in hot water first, or would you still throw them in frozen?
So they don't need to be rinsed or anything like that. You can throw them in frozen. They don't even have to go in at this stage. They can go in later. You can be pretty lax on those. But as far as leaving them out on the counter and letting them thaw, that does help a whole lot for cook time.
And we have a question, what size bag? And does it create too much liquid?
So this bag, I believe, is what, a pound? It's 12 ounces.
Yeah, it's like a small dollar bag of veggies.
Yeah, just a small little mixed bag of peas and carrots. Just a little guy here. And what was the rest of the question?
Oh, does it create too much liquid in the pan when they're frozen?
So there is liquid that gets added, but the only liquid that does get added is water, and water does evaporate. So it does get added, that's correct, but it isn't enough to make much of a difference from adding like fresh veggies.
Okay. And you guys are welcome to try what he's doing at home. I don't do that.
What's that?
It takes some add skills what you're doing with the tossing of the
There's a
pan.
whole lot of practice.
Okay.
And a lot of messes made before that.
So when you guys need a big mess in your kitchen, let your kids try.
Yeah.
Renee said she tried it once and it got all over.
It does take a whole lot of practice. Okay. So when working with a recipe, it is very important to understand it before you even start. It's always good practice. Even chefs from every restaurant I've known will go ahead and read a recipe before they do anything. So right now, I'm just making sure that we're caught up.
Do you want me to do a little quick pickle? Or are you ready for
Sure, yeah,
this?
you got time. I'll go ahead and mute myself while I'm doing this.
I will turn my camera back on. And remove your spotlight. Okay, so you'll have to excuse me when I'm looking at the camera. I can't see the screen, so I'm in a different room today. So Hunter showed you a lot of slicing and dicing of veggies, so I won't spend too much time on that. But one thing we were talking about the knives, and so one thing I do want to show for the chef's knife is that even though I think this is like a 10-inch knife, so this one's pretty big, but it's really all I use in my kitchen. So even when you're doing really small items, it's okay to have a big knife. You just have to learn that control part of it, and how Hunter was keeping that tip on the board, it really helps. Okay, so for a quick pickle, imagine any kind of pickles that you like. So they pickle all kinds of vegetables. They pickle okra, cucumbers. I don't know, I'm not thinking of a whole bunch right now, but with a quick pickle, you just slice them really, really thin. And it's good with red onions, radishes, cucumbers, and carrots as well. So you can make like a so hot almost with the carrots. But you're gonna wanna cut them really, really super thin. So even with a big knife, I can cut them really thin, but what comes in handy is having that little bit of fingernails on your tips so that you can hold that claw in the right movement when you're cutting really thin. So I'll try to, what angle is good here? Okay. So I'm gonna go down and forward, and I'm gonna use my fingernails to hold that bear claw. There is a slight danger of cutting your thumbnail a little bit when you do it that way, but I'm just gonna go very slow and carefully. And so the thinner you cut the pickled vegetables, the quicker it'll be ready. And so usually you only have to leave them for like 15-20 minutes, but I'll show you what we do. So I like radishes and cucumbers are my favorite. So those are the two I am doing. Okay, got to stand up. I'm not used to cutting sitting down. You can tell that Hunter was too tall to get his whole head and the cutting board and the camera at once. Okay, so again, really thin. I can do it on the diagonal if I want them longer. Yeah, I'm just gonna do one cucumber and one bunch of radishes. And so these are all just going in a bowl together, okay? And then it's super simple. We're just going to add vinegar. So a white vinegar is gonna be a little bit strong for this. So I will go with, my favorite is rice vinegar, and I just happen to have some because we made sushi a couple classes ago. So rice vinegar, apple cider vinegar. Hunter, are there other vinegars that go good with a quick pickle? Oh, I'm making a quick pickle, Bree. And so this is a way to you're really seasoning without herbs and spices. You're seasoning with the vinegar. And it's a traditional Japanese method. So it's a 1/4 cup of vinegar. Okay, thinly sliced vegetables, and it has to be enough to kind of cover them. And then just, it's about 2 teaspoons of sugar. So I'm just covering the sugar until I get all the, ooh, that was a little too much. Okay, so then I want to stop there. It's about 2 teaspoons of sugar and then a little pinch of salt. Okay. And then you're just gonna mix this up and cover it. And put it in the fridge for a good 20 minutes, and it's gonna be this delicious little mix of pickled vegetables. So it won't have that really, really strong pickle flavor. It'll have a really mild pickle flavor, and you'll get to taste some of the vegetables in as well. They recommend eating pickled vegetables for gut health. So any kind of autoimmune disease, anti-inflammatory that you might need for an inflammatory based disease. So like allergies, arthritis, that kind of stuff. A fermented vegetable is really good. I wouldn't quite call a quick pickle fermented, but that vinegar in there is fermented. And so you are getting some of the benefits from that as well. And it's just a lot of flavor that you can add. Hunter, would you like to add a quick pickle to?
What was the question?
What do you use your quick pickle for? I just tend to just eat it like a salad.
Okay. So I like to use quick pickles as if anything needs just a little bit of vibrance to it. So it goes really well on tacos, especially pickled radish. You can just eat them by themselves. They go really well on like some veggie boards and whatnot.
I will get that. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, there's an alarm. So quick pickles can go on anything that needs just a little bit of color, a little bit of lightness, and yeah, I have a like a Korean taco recipe that I do that I like to throw some pickled radish on, and that's quite nice. But pretty much anything, as long as you like the flavor. And right now I'm just mixing those spices for the cottage pie. And that is going to be some salt, some pepper, some thyme and rosemary, and a little bit of garlic powder. And we're going to do, and this will be in the recipe, but it's about half a tablespoon of each.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Renee. Yeah, so we had a couple questions in the chat. Carissa was asking fresh or dried for the thyme and rosemary.
Okay, that's a great question. So you can use either. If you're using dry, use a little bit less than what the recipe will ask for, because dry ingredients are a little bit stronger than the fresh counterparts. And that's pretty much it. I do like to use fresh or dry as far as like just regular cooking goes, because it's easy and cheap, and you get a very similar flavor from them. Yeah, you could go either way.
Mm-hmm. But if you had rosemary growing outside your door, you might just go pick it too. But dried is always inexpensive and lasts a long time, unless you're using spices all the time. And then there was another question about the sugar. So I was saying that the sugar in the quick pickle is very traditional, and it brings out a traditional flavor, and really you're only adding about a teaspoon. So it's not like a huge, and it's going in the vinegar. So it's not a huge like diabetes alarm or anything. It's not so much sugar. But Hunter, do you know what else might be used?
So the sugar in pickling does reduce the potency of the vinegar. It makes it kind of levels it out. So like when they're aging spirits in barrels, they're trying to bring all the flavors kind of together. The sugar kind of acts as that kind of a binder type of deal, where it just brings it all to a level where it's more palatable. Because I don't know about you, but I don't like drinking vinegar.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could use like honey or something else like that. I've never tried it.
I haven't
I
either.
don't use a lot of sugar. I don't buy sugar, but I steal some from the kitchen here when I do a quick pickle, and when I make peanut sauce, I use a brown sugar. So Sarah's asking if you could use a sweetener. I think for taste you could. For traditional fermenting, they use the sugar because the bacteria that actually ferments the food lives on that sugar. So that's just like really bioavailable sugar for the bacteria that actually ferments the food, which are good for our guts. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm ready for a couple more steps if you're ready, Jesse.
I will make you big, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I realize.
So what I was doing while she was talking about that is I just added the turkey to the onions and the peas and carrots. Right now, I've made the little spice mixture that we have here. I'm gonna add that to that pot there. And then I've got something really cool to show you about those yum bits I was talking about. So this is the pan that I cooked the turkey in. All of these little spots, that's called the fond. It's just protein and things that got stuck to the pot. We're gonna still use this because this stuff is delicious. And how we're gonna get it up is we're gonna do a method called deglazing. It brings everything off the thing. You use a liquid. Oftentimes people use wine. You can deglaze with water. You can deglaze with vinegar. With other alcohols, other spirits. Today, we are going to use beef stock, just to bring that flavor profile to beef, since we're using turkey. If you were using beef or lamb or anything, you'd still probably use beef stock for this recipe. Right here, we've got it in a can. Just gotta find an opener.
The can openers by the oil.
The oil.
Yep, over on the back table there.
Ah, thank you.
And then do you want me to come hold the camera for the deglazing?
Sure, yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right.
Show everybody what that's like. It can be loud and it can be a little scary, but it's not so bad.
Oh, it smells so good in here.
Oh,
You guys don't even know. It smells so good.
Okay, so since I'm using cast iron, I can use a metal utensil to scrape it up. If you're using something like non-stick pans, a wooden utensil is probably the best way to go because these guys will scratch those coatings off and you'll ruin your pan. It might not happen the first time, but it will eventually happen. So got the beef stock here. Jesse, you got the. Right. Okay. So we got this pan here. We're just gonna go ahead and pour that in there. And get all those bits off. It helps a whole lot if it's really hot first. I let this pan cool before I did that, so that's the problem, but we can still make it work. All I'm doing here, making sure all of those yummy turkey bits come up, get into that sauce. Because this is going to become our gravy that goes in pot.
I think it's good generally too when you're using a cast iron pan to deglaze, because then you're kind of cleaning your pan, right? At the
That's
same
right.
time.
Yeah, it does help with the cleanliness of it. Because scraping one of these guys after it's cool is just a nightmare. All right. You probably can't see, but I can see that most of the bits, all the yum bits, have come up.
You can feel it too, right?
And I can feel it, yeah.
So you guys, I'll put the camera over here so you can see the turkey and the vegetables and herbs. And then you've got the deglazing and you've got the potatoes over there. So 3 pots for this meal. You do a lot of 1 pot. Save on dishes.
All right,
Okay. I'm gonna put this back.
thank you.
Okay. Quick, yeah. That good? Is that how?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Excuse us while we take care of our technical issues here. Okay.
Okay. Now that the deglazing is done, I'm going to show you guys how to make a roux. A roux is just flour and butter. That's all it is. What it's used for is to thicken sauces. You can use cornstarch if you would like it to be gluten-free. I prefer the roux because it's got a little bit more body to it. What it is equal parts flour and butter by weight. So what I'm going to do here today is take this stick of butter, I'm going to cut it in half. So that's about 4 tablespoons. And then I'm going to take about 4 tablespoons of flour. Be a little bit more, but 4 tablespoons is a good place to start. This pot is already kind of warm, so that butter's just melting. Okay. So what we're going to do with this here is get it mixed real well. I'll use a different pencil. That'll work. And we're going to cook it. We're trying to get rid of the raw flavor of the flour. We don't want to go too far, but we can make it kind of brown. It's going to start smelling real nutty and toasty, and it's going to be pretty lovely. So as soon as we get to that point, I'll show you what I got, and we can go back to Jessie for a little bit as soon as she gets back in the room.
All right, I'm here.
All right, we can go back to you for a second.
Okay. So we have, okay, so the shepherd's pie is a traditional English/Irish Scottish dinner. Okay. Well, we have some questions in the chat too. The quick pickle is a Japanese dish. Okay. And right now I'm going to show you. We usually like to keep the ingredients real simple in Cooking Matters, but I know that there are a few foodies in this class, so we decided to do kind of a fun recipe too. Not a discount recipe, but I did find some dollar bags of spices at Safeway. So usually star anise is not something I would go buy or keep in my cupboard, but they had it for $1 at Safeway. I was really surprised. So a lot of times when you go to buy herbs and spices, look in those, look in the ethnic aisles, and sometimes they'll have them in bags and they'll be a lot less expensive. Okay. So for this is my Indian dish. So I used to live in a community where there's a lot of Indian people, and they taught me how to make homemade chai. And so chai is really, really fun for a party. It's a good alternative to coffee. And I was able to get all the spices really pretty inexpensive. So The cinnamon sticks we already had from the holidays. Okay. Star anise is another one that we got for $1. Cloves, I think I bought these once and I've never used them again. So these are kind of, if you do buy extra spices and keep them stocked up in your cabinet, just don't forget to go to the back of the cabinet and find them. Because they're there. It takes a minute to find them. Peppercorns, this was $1 at Safeway as well. And then there is one herb that is a powerful herb in chai. It's a strong flavor. It's called cardamom. And it comes with these little seeds, seed pods with little seeds in them. And it has kind of a sweet orange flavor. So I couldn't find that anywhere. I'm sure they have it at the Asian market, but I was trying to get everything where it would be easy to find. And so instead of using the cardamom pods, I'm going to use some orange peel. So I just peeled the orange and I'm going to use that. I eat the insides. So that was a bonus. It was a free herb with a scent as well. Okay, so to make the chai tea, the other one is ginger. And at Safeway, you can still pick off a piece of ginger. So if you don't want to buy a whole giant thing of ginger, I think at Walmart it's almost $4. You can still break off a little piece at other grocery stores. Walmart doesn't have this loose, so you can't break off a piece anymore. You have to buy the whole bag. But check out King Soopers and Safeway. That's where I got this. Okay. So for the chai tea, you don't really have to chop up. You're not going to be eating those ingredients. You're just going to be boiling in water. So I'm just going to do a real loose chop. And this is just really to bring the flavor. Okay. So I'm putting in my boiling water and putting orange peels. Okay. I'm going to put a whole bunch of ginger. So ginger is really medicinal and they use a lot in India. It helps get your stomach going. So if your digestive system is slow, if you ever feel like you had a big meal and it's just not moving and your stomach is just kind of sitting there, it's too heavy, ginger will help you. Ginger and mint both help you with stomach. Okay, so the ginger root is going in there. Okay. And chai is fun because if you don't have one thing, you can just use the other things and it always tastes good no matter what. I feel like that ginger is pretty important, but other than that, you can just use what you have. So I got cinnamon sticks. We're gonna do the star anise. If I had the cardamom, I would also want to smash it a little bit with a mortar and pestle. But just the orange peel, the flavor will just come right out. You can just do a loose chop. This one is really cool looking. So it's shaped like a little star. It might be, I don't know if you guys can see it. So these are the little star anise. Anise generally kind of tastes like licorice, but not a very strong licorice, more like a real sweet licorice. So I'm gonna pour half of this $1 bag in here. And it is smelling really good in here already. Okay, and the last one is clove. Okay, so there's a number of things you can use. I'm gonna send you guys spice profiles from around the world. So what kind of spices do they often use in India? What kind of spices do they often use in Morocco? And so you guys will get a list of all those, and all these are going to be common ones under the. So I have about a tablespoonful. And all these ingredients seem expensive, but once you have them, you can really make this anytime and use what you can use for a lot of other things. And homemade chai is delicious, and it's kind of like a wow thing. You bring it to a potluck or something, especially around the holidays. Everybody loves chai tea, I feel like. And it will make as much, so those little pre-made ones that you get cost a lot. And so this is a way to make a lot less expensively. So those are just gonna sit in there and simmer. Okay, and while those are simmering, like for the last 2 minutes of the chai stuff simmering, you can let it simmer as long as you want to. So you want it to get colorful and dark, okay? But those herbs that are in there won't get too dark. But once I see a lot of color, I am going to add the black tea. Okay, that's the last thing you want to add, because the tea doesn't need to boil like those roots do. Like we talked about, roots and spices need to cook a long time to get the flavor out of them. And those are very hard dried spices, so they're gonna cook a long time. The tea, on the other hand, is a loose herb, so that's just will go in at the end, the last 2 minutes. And then once you're done, you strain all that stuff out, and you save that. That's your chai tea concentrate. But you mix the chai tea concentrate with half the tea and half milk, and some kind of sweetener is good in it too, because it's traditionally a little bit sweet. But again, you don't have to use sugar. You can use brown sugar, you can use honey, you can use stevia. And yes, we are going to send you guys all the recipes and even some extra recipes and some other stuff as well. So don't forget to check these. I saw some more questions in the chat. The chat is very small right now. Are you still there, Hunter?
Yeah.
Okay, so someone is asking what's the difference between stock and broth? Oh, and Melanie answered. It says stock is boiled from bones and veggies is boiled from meat. No, broth is boiled from meat or veggies. Is that correct?
So I believe stock is boiled with veggies, whereas broth would be directly from the animal. So if you were to, now that one I'm gonna have to figure out. Wish I had the answer to that one.
All right, we can Google it. Until then, we're gonna trust Melanie, so she's the only one who knew. Holly Murphy, how much water? So I do the size of pot that I have. And so chai is not exact science. I didn't learn it that way, so I don't know what the amounts are. I just know you throw, so for this size pot, I threw, like, my ginger was probably, okay, I'll try and think of some ratios. You can look up a recipe online and it'll give you some ratios, but there's a million chai recipes, so they'll all be a little bit different. But I would say 2 tablespoons of ginger. I would say about 2 tablespoons of all the herbs that we used in about a quart of water, or maybe 2 quarts. So that's my official answer, is 2 tablespoons of every herb for every 2 quarts of water you have. Okay, but also I'll send you a recipe. It'll have amounts on there. Melanie asked Google what the difference was, so yeah, we will Google it again.
So I figured out what the difference is. I had it backwards. Broth is made from veggies and meat. Stock is made largely from bones.
Okay, so
So
that's
it
like,
has a lot of the collagen and all that other stuff in it.
mhm. Yeah, bone broth is so good for us because of the collagen, which helps our skin look nice, but it also has, it helps our guts. So when people, yeah, Melanie was first. Melanie got it first. So we think about gut health as being so important. So we've talked about this a little bit, but it helps your immune system. It helps your mood as well. So people don't know that depending on how healthy your gut is, can affect how happy you feel day to day. There's science, tons of research behind it. So bone broth is really, really good for us to get all those amino acids. Interesting enough too, I never knew why they serve Jell-O in the hospital. Like why is everyone eating Jell-O? Like I thought it's the most horrible thing, especially when I was vegetarian. But it turns out Jell-O has a lot of those branched chain amino acids that are really good for our gut as well. So, and it helps us, has all the amino acids that help repair muscle and tissue damage. So if someone's in a hospital because they just had surgery or a burn or something like that, those concentrated amino acids really help heal our bodies really, really quickly. So bone broth, Jell-O do have medicinal benefits too. Melanie says stock is also thicker, so maybe when you want a little more flavor, it would be good to use. Okay, I'm still big. I don't want to be big anymore. Let's make Hunter big again. Okay.
All right. So what we have here is a very nice dark roux. You can use a roux to make gravies, sauces, all sorts of things, really. Any sort of sauce that needs to be thickened, you can use a roux to put it to use it. If you were going to use cornstarch, you can throw that directly into the sauce. A roux you do have to cook because raw flour isn't super delicious. So what we're going to do there is we're going to take that roux and put it in the beef stock that we've already put out. And we're going to allow that to simmer. And as it simmers, it's going to start to thicken. And then we can add it to our mixture right behind me here. And then get the potatoes, mash them up, put them on top, and throw it in the oven. And then we'll start on the stir fry if we have time.
Okay. Someone asked, with the cornstarch, do you mix it with cold liquid first? Because I know sometimes I've had problems with cornstarch.
So it does help to mix it with a little bit of liquid first. What I typically do is take the broth that I'm going to put it in, and I will mix it with that first in a separate container, and then add that in slowly. Because cornstarch will thicken it up a lot quicker than flour will. So you don't have to use quite as much.
I feel like it's a little, is it a little bit salty cornstarch? Because sometimes, or no? Is that my imagination?
I think that flavor comes more from the acidity of it, like how it's where it lies on the table there. Yeah, I think that's where that flavor mostly comes from, because there is no salt in cornstarch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I used it in other salty dishes.
What's that?
I think my problem is I've used it in dishes that were already salty, so. So you're putting the roux in the broth?
That's right.
And I know a lot of you guys on here love that Southern food, so that gumbo. The longer you cook that roux, the darker it'll get. And I guess a gumbo just traditionally made with a pretty dark roux, almost cooked like an hour. But you're making more like a gravy, Hunter? He's making a gravy.
Okay, so I made a mistake.
Yes.
Now don't worry, we can recover from it. I just wanted to show you guys. So that is our sauce. It doesn't look very saucy, does it? That's because I added too much roux. What I can do to help this is I can add a little bit of water to it, and it'll all come back together.
I have chicken broth if you would rather. I have some on the shelf if you want me to come
Well,
get it.
either way it'll work. Either way is good.
Okay. I think you guys learning how to recover from mistakes in the kitchen is just as important as learning how to do everything perfectly.
There we have it. Nice sauce.
Would that work as a gravy too, or is that different?
Was there a question?
Oh, I was saying, would that work as a gravy if you wanted a gravy, or is it a little different than a gravy?
Yeah, it could. It could absolutely work for a gravy. I would season it first, but it's definitely super good for a gravy.
What would you season it with?
So I would use rosemary, thyme, salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic salt or garlic powder. And that's about it. You could add just a little bit of red pepper flake too if you like it a little spicy. Yeah.
And just so you know, Hunter, we have about 20 more minutes before we go do our survey.
So what I just did is I added everything to this pan. We're just mixing it up real good. Before I did this, I did add those seasonings in, which were rosemary, thyme, garlic powder, salt and pepper. Okay, now this bad boy is gonna go in a pan. We got a nice hotel pan here. Okay. Now it's time for the potatoes. I'm just gonna go drain these out. I'll be right back.
So he's gonna mash and drain those. I'm gonna try to show you my chai right now, what color it is, so when you ask how much. So I'm gonna try to get all close. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this through the camera or not. Without the black tea, it's like a very pale yellow. So I don't know how to describe the color without being gross, but it's like a very dark pea. If you were looking at the color, it's not black like a black tea. It's not dark brown, but it is darker than you would want your pea ever to be. I know that's a gross comparison, but that's the only thing I could think of right now. But once I add the black tea, it'll get a lot darker. And for this whole pot, I'm only gonna add 3 bags of black tea. Carissa said Rubius is good. Yeah, the Rubius doesn't have any caffeine in it. I like Earl Grey too. Earl Grey is another good one. Okay. Do you need anything, Hunter?
Yeah, I'm looking for that potato masher.
Ah, okay, I'll come bring you a potato masher.
I might have used it.
So for the potatoes, all we're looking for is some fork tender potatoes. So forks should just go straight through. I can just squish it in my hands. That's how soft they are. Right now, we're just waiting on a patented potato masher.
Mise en place.
Mise en place is very important. What that means is prepping your station, prepping your food before you even start.
Everything in its place.
That's right. So we're gonna take the masher, we're just gonna mash these potatoes, nothing to it. And we're gonna add some half and half and the rest of that butter. I'm sure, yeah. We're gonna do yeah. They don't have to be perfect, and kind of. So I'm adding the butter first because the potatoes are still very hot. As soon as I add the cream, the temperature is going to drop. I want that butter to be nice and melted before I even start. It also helps, excuse me, also helps to mash the potatoes first before you add the cream because they end up mashing a lot better before you if you don't add anything cold to it. And that butter that I had was sitting out, so it wasn't from the fridge, nice and soft. So we weren't adding too much of a color or temperature difference there. And right now, Jess is just over here cutting up those chicken thighs for the next recipe. We're gonna just do them in nice little cubes there.
Not cubes yet.
They're not cubed yet. They're
We'll
little
do this
sticks.
sideways cut, we'll do some.
There you go.
So the long one, we always call slices, and then we call the shortcut dices.
Okay.
Or when we're working with the kids, we do sticks and bricks.
Sticks and bricks. All right.
Cutting off a little bit of the fat, but not all of it. So like a little bit.
And just a
Not
little
all of it.
bit. Ain't nothing wrong with a little bit of cheddar. Add some cream. I'm gonna throw in about half a quarter cup. Do we have
Yes.
and for this recipe, we're going to add just a little bit of Greek yogurt to give it a little bit of a zing to it.
We were talking about as butter is so fatty. If any kind of other dairy that you can put in there to make up for some of the butter is good. So yogurt, it still has that creaminess, but it doesn't have quite as much saturated fat as butter. A little bit healthier option. And if the tang is too much for you in a mashed potato, think of it like a dill and sour cream mashed potato. So when I add Greek yogurt to my mashed potatoes, I always use dill. It's like a tangy, like a different kind of flavor. So dill and Greek yogurt go good together.
We're just waiting for Jesse to grab that Greek yogurt real quick, and we're only gonna put about a tablespoon in there. It doesn't need a whole lot. Do we have any rubber spatulas here? All right. I didn't know this would be that. Cool. Okay. So, potatoes are ready. We're gonna go ahead and get them into this pan here. to make sure you get it all. You don't waste over here. Okay. I'm just going to spread those out. They're nice and warm, so they're going to spread real easy. We just want them kind of even on the top here, just to cover the whole thing. This is where the pie part comes in. Okay. All right. So now that those are all level, that can go right into the oven. And it's going to go in there at 350. Actually, I think the recipe is 375. 375 for about 10 minutes. Are we good for stir fry?
Yeah, you can go right up to stir fry, and then when you're done,
Okay. Now, the stir fry is something that we're going to go into next. Real quick, real easy. I already have it meased out. So the mise en place is already all done, so we can just throw it all together. What that is we're going to throw a bunch of veggies into a pan, and we're going to saute them. What we have here is green peas and carrots. I'm going to need Jess's help for a second, actually. Wherever she went.
Hunter?
Jesse?
Yeah, were you on mute?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. Sorry
But
about
we
that.
just have the carrots for the stir fry, right?
There should be carrots,
Oh,
broccoli.
never mind.
You put them in the little metal bins, yeah.
I'm catching back up. I remember just cutting all those things. Hold on. We're good.
Sorry.
Okay. So what we have here is what I prepped earlier with you guys. We got the peppers, got the broccoli, carrots, and some green onions. We're gonna go ahead and throw the broccoli and the carrots in first. Do we have another pan anywhere, Jesse? So when you're sauteing, the idea is for it to be hot and fast. You're trying to get a little bit of color. You're trying to break down the veggies a little bit. But we want to get some, you got to get some heat on the pan. We're going to put a couple of tablespoons of oil on there. I like to use a vegetable oil because olive oil has a lower smoke point, so it tends to burn at the heat that we're going to be cooking these at. So we're going to use something like this so that it doesn't burn quickly. Again, we only need about a couple tablespoons. We're going to go ahead and, in this scenario, cook the meat first. So all this lovely chicken that Jesse just prepped for us is going to go straight into that pan behind me. And then as soon as these guys are, they're the same color all the way out, we can start adding the veggies. These are going to continue to cook after we add the veggies, so they don't necessarily need to be completely cooked right away. And what you want to hear is that sizzle. If you don't hear any sizzling, then it's not hot enough.
We'll have some leftovers.
So the meat is going to cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. That's how long it takes usually. And then we'll go ahead and add our veggies.
Okay, and just to address the chat while we were out and about, vanilla is great in chai, so you can add a little bit of the liquid vanilla once it's done. You can make chai with real vanilla beans. It's very expensive, but it's delicious. And then Raquel, good tip. She always tries to make extra mashed potatoes so she can do shepherd's pie as a leftover dish. So it's a great leftovers dish when you have too much mashed potatoes. Brianne says, top it with cheese, make it better. Yep, cheese always makes everything better. But remember to think about how much butter you put in your potatoes as well. So you don't want double the saturated fat. But with this dish, this is a good dish for like a side salad. So if you eat like a cup and a half size serving, you could throw cheese on there, definitely. Great freezer meal. It will freeze for a long time. And we are caught up with the chat. So did the chicken, so I this is when I have a hard time with Hunter. I always have to cook my protein separately because I don't know how to time it right. But you cook your chicken like halfway through and then add your veggies?
That's about what I did, yeah.
Okay.
But it does help a whole lot if you do keep them separate. If you can't, if that makes you nervous, then I would recommend starting with the veggies and then having the chicken on the side in a different pan. And then when the chicken is ready, you can just add that later.
Okay.
And you can even add that as you add the sauce as well.
Okay.
So after everything is for the most part cooked.
Okay, while Hunter finishes up this recipe, I'm gonna put in the chat, I'm gonna put in our survey link because we need to do that before everybody goes. And then I will also get the course code real fast and then put it in the chat. Is that just salt? We have a little bit of
So
salt.
right here, I'm just gonna do the salt, pepper, garlic powder, seasoning.
So if everyone could take a minute to do that, fill that out while Hunter's doing the stir fry. And then, of course, because we didn't want to forget, I made the brown rice before we did all of this. So it would be done before we got it started. So always remember, if you want to make the extra healthy brown rice instead of the white rice, start it before you start your stir fry. It's about 45 minutes.
It's a tiny success.
You want me to do it? I can do it.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So we don't have a little zester for the ginger, so I'm going to show you my tiny knife skills method here. It's the turkey knife.
It'll be cooked.
It'll be cooked.
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
cooked.
So I'm just going to go right around. The nice thing about ginger is it's got a lot of flavor. So, oh yeah, these little tiny pieces that were taken off with the skin. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's not that much. This is mostly skin. So I am losing a little bit of the ginger by doing it this way. Another way is to take a spoon and you can use the spoon to take off the skin of the ginger. When you make the chai tea, you don't even need to take the skin off because that's not going in there. And again, I'm going to use my little tiny fingernails. I don't have very long ones to hold that ginger as I cut it really tiny. So that I can do tiny slices. And then when it gets too skinny to hold, I tip it over. This one you do the flat slices and then the long slices. And then the dices. It's all messed up. It's okay. We'll get it. Quick. This is called a quick chop. When you lose the grip, you just go like this a bunch.
Yeah, just go crazy.
Yeah. And I like ginger, so I don't mind a whole bite of ginger in my stir fry. The kids might not like it.
All right. Black tea? I don't. Okay. So while Jesse was showing you how to cut that ginger up, I was preparing our sauce here, which the ginger is going to go inside. What this is a mixture of brown sugar, soy sauce, and now ginger. That's really all there is to it. You can add a little bit of pepper or red chili flake or onion powder if you would like. I wouldn't recommend salt because soy sauce is salt. Well, it's not salt, but it is basically salt. And that's just going to go straight in with the rest of the veggies and the chicken, and that's going to coat it right up, and it's going to come all together nice and quick. And we'll be just about ready.
Oh, thank you guys for doing that survey. I appreciate it. Okay, and so for everyone who asked, I gotta turn my camera back on.
you look here.
Oh God, that looks good.
Yeah, it smells really good too. So up here, we got a lot of fond, right? All those yum bits are down there, not gonna be consumed. So I'm just gonna add a touch of water and scrape it right up.
And for me, as we're running out of time, I'm gonna show you, this was the chai without the black tea. So it's kind of like a light beige color. And then with the black tea, it gets a lot dark browner, okay? But even with this, it's gonna be half tea and I'm gonna mix it with half milk and a little bit of sweet to get that full chai flavor. If you're making it for a party, you can put the sweet in ahead of time. Yeah, I'm sorry, Renee, my camera, if I get up too close, it gets fuzzy. So I'm trying to find the right distance. It's not autofocus. Okay, so I meant to tell you guys this earlier, was throw your recipes in the chat, but we're gonna send you guys a bunch of recipes. And I'm also going to send you guys, so since today's theme was spices, I'm gonna send you spice profiles from around the world. So what kind of spices they use in each country. And if you don't know what something is, look it up and learn a little bit about that culture. If something is hard to find or expensive, I'm also going to send you a list of substitutions for herbs and spices. But you can look online, always Google, what is a good substitution for this? Because there was quite a lot of things in the, I think it was African or West African that I had never heard of. So when I looked up those spices, I wouldn't even know where to find them here. But you can Google and say, what is a good replacement for this? And they had ideas for almost everything on that list. So I'm going to send you spice profiles, spice substitutions, all the recipes we did, and then some of our other favorite recipes, because we couldn't do all of our favorite recipes on one night. I also have a Greek lemon soup that is a really good dish. Greek cuisine is really healthy, so I'll send you a tzatziki recipe. I don't know, there'll be a bunch of recipes. So I'll send them in an email. And then because this is the third of all the classes, you guys can pick up your gift cards from Deborah later, I think after, ask her, but I would say after Wednesday. I'll bring them there tomorrow. So yeah, so today we got shepherd's pie from United Kingdom. We got a quick pickle from Japan. You guys have to try it. I know it seems like an odd dish, but if you haven't tried it before, try it. You have to try it this summer when it's hot out. Chai tea from India, and then a Chinese veggies and rice stir fry. And we'll send you more from other places around the world. And always, as always, share with each other your favorite recipes too. Hunter, can you show us the stir fry one more time because it looks so good? Okay, bam. Yeah, you made that pretty quick too.
And we're going to be serving that over rice. We have rice already made. We used a brown rice, right, Jesse?
Uh-huh. For that added fiber.
Nice. And you can always have rice on, you can always have rice. It's not very hard to make, and you can use it as an added ingredient to a lot of things. So having it pre-made and stored correctly can be a big help. You can make all sorts of yummy dishes that way, just on the fly.
Yeah, for second dinner, Brian, that's when our in-person classes will come in handy. So for those of you who enjoy this and doing it from home is wonderful, but if you want to come eat with us, you're going to have to take one of our in-person classes too, because those are fun. Everybody, thank you, Hunter. Thanks for coming. This was really cool. They've seen me cook enough. Recipe manager apps. There are tons of apps out there. My favorites are the ones that make a grocery list for you, but then you can go back and check off the ingredients you have in your pantry so that it makes a grocery list, but you can also like edit your grocery list right there in the app. That's a super fun one. And Cooking Matters, if you have Android, we have our own Cooking Matters recipe app.
All right, this is Deborah. Just a note for those of you that have attended all 3 of these Cooking Matters classes. We will be sending you the 3 gift cards. You do not have to come to the office to pick them up. We will be sending you the 3 gift cards from Cooking Matters, and we will also be providing you, along with that, a $25 gift card to a grocery store. So that all will be sent to you after the session. So once we finish attendance, and I have taken attendance for everyone who's online, I've done that already. So once we get the other cards, then we will make sure that we get you your cards. I know some of you have already come by the office to pick them up. So we do have a list of that, but those who have not, that all will be sent to you. So thank you again, Jesse and Cooking Matters and Hunter. Thank you for tonight. We really appreciate everything that you guys do to help us make healthy food and giving us great recipes that we can do easily at home. So thank you.